I'm in the studio today with Hamish McLean, editor of the Canmore Leader, and Larissa Barlow, editor of the Banff Crag and Canyon. Thanks again for joining me.
Thanks, Camara.
Let's talk first about what's going on in Banff with the Planning Forum coming up next week.
Yeah, it's the 14th annual Banff National Park Planning Forum, and if you're unfamiliar with it, it's when the public and a lot of stakeholders really get the chance to sit down and talk with Parks Canada managers and the superintendent and just give them ideas and how they'd like the direction of the park to go. You know, we don't have a management plan that gets put together every single year, so this is really the time where if you want to, talk about an issue that's, really important to you about the park, you should really stop by on November 16th at Harkin Hall from 7 to 9 p.m. and you'll get the chance to take part in a Q&A with Superintendent Pam Vino. Let her know your thoughts, hear a year in review report from her. And then the next day after that, it's an all-day event at the Canmore Center. And that's more where stakeholders get to talk. But you do get to take part in kind of a workshop where they have smaller breakout groups to talk about things. And I think some of the themes this year are winter experience and trails. So if those are, some things that are important to you, you might want to stop by and let parks know.
What do you mean trails?
It's very vague at this point. Yeah, they didn't really want to say too much because they are going to be, releasing a lot of things at the actual forum. But trails, I think anything in the park that's, maybe trail improvements, trail signage,
trail usage,
development of new trails could come up, which, more of a summer thing. And then I guess winter experience is going to be maybe surrounding special events or, maybe trying to draw people out to certain areas, skating rinks. Who knows? It could be anything at this point.
What?
Oh, sorry.
No, you're the one
asking
questions. I was just going to ask what came out of last year.
That was the exact question I was going to ask. Yeah, tell us about last year and some of the concerns.
Some of the things out of last year were just talking about, the idea of closing down one of the lanes of the Minnewanka Loop for a bike lane. And I think there's still a lot of planning going around that. There was talk of a visitor center going up right at the East Gates. I'm trying to rack my brain here, trying to think of some other things. But, that was when the management plan had just come out, so it was a lot of kind of early discussions about some things. So
yeah, it was heated last year, wasn't it?
It wasn't too bad. I think the year before it was a bit more heated, but this one, that last year's it was pretty good. A lot of people were kind of putting their names down to things and agreeing on a lot of things and where the direction will go. But that was under an old superintendent, so I don't know what it'll be this time. I think probably a lot of stuff around the Norquay ski area might come up, just with people wanting to speak their minds, kind of. If in favor or against that decision.
Are we prioritizing ecological integrity enough?
Right. Yeah.
Park?
Yeah.
That's often brought up. Yeah.
Do you find that they're useful? Do you find that what is said at these meetings actually does end up unfolding? Yeah,
I think it's one of those times where you really get to have a candid discussion with the superintendent. And, this year, Pam Vino is going to give sort of a year in review of everything that's happened, maybe the successes and some not so successful projects. And then, you really get to ask anything you want. And, maybe, that's the time if you have a serious question, something contentious issue, you can really ask it at that point, and then, she's there to answer it.
Sure. I bet some people are going to bring up the legacy trail usage in the winter, because I think last winter was the first winter that we had it fully established, and people were really surprised that they couldn't use it.
Yeah, well, there's a big ad in the Crag and Canyon this week about how the legacy trail's closed for the winter, and it'll be open May long weekend. Next year.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's just such a bummer because that legacy trail is so used. But I understand that, it's really close to the highway and it must get rocks and shooting rocks and stuff. But you would think that there'd be some sort of...
Plow it twice, right? Like plow the road.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do understand because there's no fence and it is quite close to the roads at times, but it's just so loved.
Yeah. I think when they made it, I don't even think winter was a consideration. I think it was always like it's just going to be a summer trail.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it would be cool to try to cross country ski from Canmore to
Well,
Banff.
you can do it. You just have to do it
right at the Goat Creek.
Yeah, exactly. And so we'll keep everyone up to date on what's going on with that. We'll talk about what happened
for sure.
next week. Hamish, tell me a bit about what's going on with Bow Valley Trail in Canmore.
Right on. Yeah, so we're sort of in phase 2 in Canmore on coming towards an area redevelopment plan for a large strip of commercial sort of property in Canmore, and there's residential property there. It's a real mixed bag right now, and I think that the Bow Valley Trail sort of area was identified as being problematic for the town. It's part of the old Highway 1A, right, or part of the old Highway 1 or 1A now, and it sort of has a highway feel, and it's, you know what I mean, it's got gas stations at one end and sort of condos at the other, and then in between there's a real big old mixed bag. And so it was identified early as, hey, let's sort of try to get a consistent feel for this, and let's also you know what I mean? Let's get people to not view it as a highway and not view it as Canmore's Main Street. And that happened to me this summer when somebody called and said, yeah, I'm on Main Street. I'm just approaching the A&W. And we all know that that is Bow Valley Trail and not Main Street. And so there is that disconnect between Canmore's downtown and how do we get people off that Bow Valley Trail. And so these are the kinds of things that people have been talking about for a long time. And this week they're doing the streetscape stuff. And so that's brought out some interesting ideas. You know, people are arguing about if a median down the middle will block access to different businesses. Some groups have asked really hard for roundabouts, and the only one that seems like it might work would be the one right in front of the Canmore Hospital. And so, yeah, people like the planning department still getting sort of this public consultation process, and on Thursday night they'll be sort of pulling that all together and say these are the kinds of things that we're looking for or looking at. And it's an area redevelopment plan. It's way down in the future, but they are also asking, like, once we've got this vision in place, what are the next steps? What kinds of things can we do in the next 3 to 5 years? And
interesting. Back to Banff. Tell us a little bit about council just got their scorecards from a particular group. Tell me how that unfolded.
Well, it's a business group that quarterly ranks council. It's the Hotel Motel Association, and they've been doing this since before the election. So this council, all they've ever known is getting these quarterly scorecards. So they've never known a time when they haven't been ranked publicly by an organization. So it's really good. It's really good to have sort of that accountability. But I mean, it's just a business organization. So really, a lot of the stuff in this third quarter, council hasn't had any major business-related decisions. So we're still seeing, pretty good marks from a business perspective. The only thing that they really took issue with was the town hiring a new person to deal with all of the illegal dumping that you see around the garbage bins in town. So, they really wanted to see that done within the context of the budget, which is coming up pretty quickly. But I think whenever there's a new hire at the town and the new position is created, the business community is a bit upset because they want to see efficiencies made everywhere, and can you make cuts in this area in order to fix this other area? But in general, pretty good marks. Okay. Remains to be seen. We got a lot of big things coming down the line, like the land use bylaw. We'll see what that looks like, and budget definitely. So there could be some not so great marks after that's all done. But you never know. You never know what this council might do. They've already got one budget under their belts, so they might have figured out a smoother way to get it done.
Who did best and worst?
I think Leslie Taylor and Chip Oliver got all check marks. Chip had missed a couple of meetings, but I mean, for the most part, I think, I'm just trying to remember, and I think there was a couple, 3 X's were handed out to maybe Grant Canning and Paul Baxter. And I think he's a board member of the organization. So they're not pulling any punches.
No.
But to be honest, I'd be like, I think reputation alone, I would be afraid to give Leslie Taylor an A+.
Taylor's but she deserves it. She is so wonderful.
Cool.
Yeah. Nothing bad to say
it's
about
based
her.
on votes as well. So
sure.
they those councillors just happened to vote in the way that the business community liked. It doesn't really go, like, oh, we don't like the shirt you're wearing today.
Sure.
X marks, we want to get you off council. This is done mostly to, I think, just bring attention to some of the more business-oriented votes that council makes, and
Sure.
to generate some discussion. And I think less like next election you're not getting in kind of a thing.
Yeah, definitely. Interesting. And we have a couple minutes left. There was a very, very, very interesting editorial in the Leader this week. And
I appreciate that, Canmore.
and the thing is that if people haven't been picking up the Leader for a couple weeks, I have never, ever seen so many letters to the editors as I have in the last couple weeks about these bunnies in Canmore. It is like pages and pages, so many letters, and people are so worked up. It's like...
And they're coming from all over.
And they're coming from, not just from Canmore or Banff. I haven't actually seen any from Banff, but they're coming from Chilliwack and Edmonton.
Prince Edward Island.
Yeah, and it's so, you would think people are talking about much more newsworthy reasons to write.
Everybody thinks it's not a newsworthy story, but I really do. You know what I mean? It clearly is.
I mean, we're not talking about bears getting mowed over by CP.
Right.
But
it
is still a very contentious issue.
If these were locusts, you know what I mean? Other people have
Or
said
rats,
rats, like for sure, this would not be quite, well, it would probably be a huge issue if it's like Canmore's overrun by rats. Right? But at the same time.
I think everyone at Tourism Canmore just had a heart attack.
Right.
Redact it.
Anyways, it's what I like about it is we get a whole range of how people view Canmore and how people understand where the town fits in sort of otherwise ecologically sensitive areas.
But you get a whole range, but still on one spectrum.
Well, that's exactly it, right? And
that spectrum being that
save the bunnies.
Save the bunnies.
Yeah. And you don't hear much from the other side at all. In fact, at a council meeting, a woman did come, and she said that she really just came down to say that when the gallery was being loud, she couldn't hear it. She was watching at home on the town's website, but she couldn't hear the questions from the gallery because they weren't using the microphones.
Right.
And then she said, and for the record, I am one of this silent majority who is interested in getting rid of the bunnies in any way possible now. Do it now. And that's the thing,
and
too.
not spending a lot of money and
right. Yeah. The mayor has sort of taken a lot of heat, let's say, and because he is the figurehead of that silent majority. He's, you know what I mean, leading council through this. But I've talked to councillors too, and they are getting, you know what I mean, even at times, I'll go so far as to say disrespectful correspondence from bunny advocates.
Well, I really think it's a lot harder to stand up and say, yes, please kill these fuzzy bunnies. And it's much easier to be on the side of save these cute little creatures. So you don't, you're not going to get a lot of people standing up and saying, kill them all, because it's a lot. You will open yourself up to attacks.
Yeah.
Right. And the other thing that it seems to be like hard to say, I think, is let's spend 6 months looking for a sanctuary and let's triple the budget because we want to save lives.
That's much harder to say, yes. Yeah.
Nobody's saying that either.
Yeah.
They're saying, let my people go. I'm one with the bunnies.
Yeah.
Or they're not saying anything, but they're secretly saying, like, I don't care if you kill these bunnies.
That's the thing, I think a lot of people also are like, I don't want the bunnies to die, but I don't care enough to save them and to spend a lot will
packaging them in little airplanes and sending them to Prince Edward Island.
And so it's just interesting that this issue, and you will hear the most, and then the people who read these letters who think that everyone's misinformed, everyone thinks that everyone else is misinformed, and so all of, my local friends are saying that people from other towns don't know what they're talking about because they come to Canmore twice a year, which is, not fair of my friends to say that, and they think that they're right, and everyone thinks they're right about this issue, and it is so, I cannot believe the letters that the leaders got.
Oh, it's awesome.
So pick up the Crag and the Leader this week, and especially check out the editorial because it's interesting read. Something we haven't read yet. Well, and then there has been
I couldn't
one...
pull the trigger. I couldn't say kill the bunnies, to be honest.
Yeah, couldn't pull the trigger.
I said, speak up.
Yeah.
STFU, silent majorities. You know what I mean? Speak up.
Oh, so crazy. We are definitely out of time.
Pardon me.
Make sure we'll talk about the panel discussion next week because I'm interested to hear about the planning forum.
Yeah, for sure.
And I will talk to you both next week.
Thanks, Camara.
Camara.